Greetings, my friends. I'm Paper Ninja, and I'm glad you're tuning in today. Today, I'm going to be talking about Route B's most infamous chapter, and why it's not only a newbie trap, but one of the worst traps in the entire game. One of the reasons I really like New Game Plus and Fantasy Maiden Wars is because of the more sandbox nature of it. The fact that you can bring 6 characters back to the beginning means you can try them out as if they had maximum availability. Wanted to try Yuka, but only had maybe 4 chapters with her? Now you can see how she would really perform if she had enough prep time. Plus, the more sandbox nature means I can try different challenges, like no upgrades or combination units only from the very start. On a base game in Lunatic, you have your best characters almost objectively from the very start. Reimu, Mistia, Akyu, etc. Not using them actively hurts you, and using a weaker character means you need more knowledge of the game to make up for using this inferior character. The hardest bosses in the game are made even more difficult and are completely either BS or completely unfun to fight against without the meta strategies. Because of the amount of damage required in Lunatic to succeed, your main damage carries in terms of units might change, but your support characters and strategies never will. You'll always use Daiose or Kokuma to restore your HP and MP, because they're literally the first 2 units you get that can do that without resorting to spirits. You can still use Daiose and Kokuma in New Game Plus, but they're way more optional now because you have more MP, or you have items to make up for not having them. Hence the more sandbox nature, like I said. The coding of the game, bugs, and frequent crashing sometimes makes challenge runs on a base playthrough impossible if I wanted to try something like Imperishable Knight characters only starting from Chapter 1. Anyone who's played and beaten Fantasy Maiden Wars Complete Box knows how buggy this game can be sometimes. New Game Plus Route B has 5 additional maps that can only be played in New Game Plus. It's generally designed for endgame teams, and at minimum, you'll have 2 characters with wife point bonuses if you're on your first New Game Plus. Of the 5 maps, we're going to be talking about the one that's caused the most horror stories, 72B. Now, I normally recommend playing on Lunatic for New Game Plus, because you can immediately wife point someone from the start of the game, which pretty much just snaps the game in half. Unless you're testing something or farming, you'll likely breeze through most of the game if you're on Lunatic at this point. So, assuming you do that, you go through the game and basically wreck everything with your wife point unit. You even get enough for a second wife point unit, and you're basically unstoppable right now. To swing things even more in your favor for New Game Plus, you get Miko, a pretty decent unit. But the real character you get is Makura, the game's final boss, and probably the strongest character in the game. And oh boy, Makura doesn't slack at all. Mega broken personal skills, absurd damage and weapon list, stats, a good map W, and discounted dream basically makes any map trivial. Heck, if you wife point her, she's an unstoppable killing machine that can clear maps within minutes. Then you get to post chapter 70, and you notice that the game gives you this extra dialogue box not on your first playthrough. You pick one of the options, and you see in the intermission that it says B. You realize that this is the second route you can play only in New Game Plus, so you try this out. The first chapter is basically a repeat of the original route, except the bonus is 3 turns instead of 6. With 2 wife point units, this is nothing though, and it's not as if the enemies are that much stronger. Afterwards, you get to 72B, the monster, the newbie trap, one of the worst designed maps in my opinion. For the purposes of this video, I'll be under the assumption that you're playing on Lunatic to simulate the highest difficulty possible. If you're on a lower difficulty, you'll obviously have an easier time. At first glance, this doesn't look that bad. Your objective is to kill these 3 pink barrier keys on each corner of the map in the northwest, northeast, and south. It's another timed objective, but given your roster of characters and 2 wife point units, definitely doable, right? That is, until you look at their HP. You're expected to do 410,000 damage to each of them. So combining them together, you need to do 1.2 million damage. Makura's Lunatic version in Route A as a boss has just short of that at 400k on her last 2 spell cards. Plus, you're already set up prior to begin assaulting her. The barrier keys have damage mitigation like guard and L size too. So in the worst case scenario, you would be losing 30% of your damage on that alone with your character's M size, which is the average size. Now, most teams can do this kind of damage given enough time, But the kicker is that you need to do it all within 4 turns. 4 turns. It's not even optional. This is straight up your losing condition, unlike the previous chapter where you can go slow if your team is a little too weak to do the EX. No, if your team just straight up is too weak, you're totally soft locked if you're doing this only on Lunatic. If you were already set up near them like with Route A's final boss, this would be more feasible. But the distance to each one is stupidly far, requiring multiple turns to reach each one normally. The starting positions isn't conducive to power boosting quickly either, so you're stuck with using Rally to hurry and get that power required for your finishers. To finish just kicking the balls, these stupid barrier keys all have vigor, so they can heal themselves by 30% of their max HP if you end the turn with their HP at less than 50%. And that's just the victory condition. Your EX is to kill all other enemies before finishing off the last barrier key. And if you think they're weak at all, brace yourself for that notion, because they all have 18,000 HP. Not only that, they're scattered all over this stupid map. They don't move, by the way, so you have to go to them. If you want to do the EX, you'll need additional characters strong and mobile enough to clear out the enemies. Oh, what's that? Sorry, you need those very same characters to do damage to the barrier keys, because their stats are too high, and you don't do shit against them. Just look at the damage I'm doing with the fully upgraded Aku to the barrier keys. This is one of the strongest characters in the game, without life point. What is this nonsense? Plus, due to the distance between all 3 of the barrier keys, if you send a unit towards one barrier key, chances are they won't make it to support the other one without movement tools. But with 2 life point units, this sounds doable, right? Plus, you've got Makura, the final boss on your team. And if you've been using her at all on your run, you probably know how broken she is. Well, I hope you weren't counting on her then, because she gets yoinked out of your team for plot reasons. So if she happened to be one of your life point targets, kiss goodbye to one of your strongest attackers on a map with an insane damage check. I won't sugarcoat it, it looks almost unfeasible. This is probably one of the most bullshit maps I've ever seen in any Super Robot Wars type game. How do you even handle this clusterfuck of a chapter? Well, I won't answer that, because the main question is why is this a newbie trap of a chapter, and why is it the worst map in FMW, in my opinion? The reason I hate this chapter, and why it's a newbie trap, is because of the sudden spike in expectations, along with the removal of the sandbox nature of New Game Plus. What do I mean by that exactly? See, you form your first impression of Route B starting from the first chapter of it, 71B. 71B isn't that difficult, like I said, especially with 2 life point units that you can send in both directions of it. While the time requirement for the EX is shorter, with clever play, you can still do the EX. Plus, the enemy HP isn't exactly that different from Route A's endgame, so your expectations have been set a bit by your attempt on 71B. Difficult, maybe, if you're trying for the EX, but with good play, you can still do this. Then, you immediately jumped to 72B, and it throws you not only this mega high damage check, but the amount of movement you need to do too. The jump between what you're expected to do is just so staggering that it's completely unexpected. You could make the argument that if you're doing the EX in 71B, the movement required might be a foreshadowing of what you'll need in 72B. But the difference here is that the speed in 71B is optional, so you could skip it if you need. But you cannot in 72B. You will lose if you're too slow. Plus, if this is your first time entering 72B, you would never know that Makura is going to be taken away from you without either looking at a video or asking someone. So you're just shooting yourself in the foot and losing a wife point unit if you happen to fully wife point Makura just to try her out. And who wouldn't, given how overpowered she is? And if your other wife point unit was a support character like Dayose, because you want to try making them strong, I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun trying to get her to do significant damage to the barrier keys. The current meta strategy in 72B is generally going with at least 2 high DPS characters to kill a barrier key, then using multiple movement tools or support units to quickly transport them to other barrier keys to save you turns on moving to them. The rest of your characters have to gang up on one barrier key just to kill it in a reasonable amount of time, because you don't have enough firepower otherwise. And if you were trying to do the EX of killing everything, that problem is even more exacerbated. Could you do this without the meta strategy? Absolutely, but the requirement is the same. High damage and high movement if the majority of your damage is coming from your wife point unit. The support units remain the same if you need movement. Aya, Yukari, Yamame Toyohime. If you have multiple strong characters stat boosted, you can win for sure from just sheer firepower, but it's still going to be painful. The high damage that you need necessitates making at least 3 or 4 strong damage carries. Aku can substitute one of them, as she's strong enough without life points to do significant damage. But she's the exception, not the norm. If you've life pointed a support unit like Lily White, I guarantee you it's going to be drastically harder than if you life point Reimu. The sandbox nature of New Game Plus is completely removed because of the singular map. It completely shuts down any notion of certain challenge runs, like themed runs, such as EOSD characters only, simply because there's absolutely no way I'll have enough damage or turns to beat 72B. Solo character damage runs with maybe some support characters to help them out, can't do that either because I don't have enough turns again, and the movement requirement is just too high. Combination units only that I finished in May, exact same problem as the rest. So the obvious solution would be to lower the difficulty, right? That is indeed an answer, but the fact that you have to lower the difficulty just to get through this slog of a chapter, whereas you were probably doing fine in most every other one, should give a red flag on how stupid this chapter was designed. So that's why I think 72B is a complete newbie trap, along with being one of the worst designed maps in Fantasy Maiden Wars. In summary, 72B lies to you about the expectations of Route B. The other maps afterwards, they're not even nearly as hard as this one. 73B is borderline a plot chapter, 74B has a difficulty adjuster, similar to the first time you fight Yorihime as a boss, and 75B is pretty gimmicky as a boss map, similar to Route A's final boss or Yukari. It's not a gradual raising of expectations of what you need from your team. It's a total spike upwards before nosediving in expectations because the other maps don't even compare in difficulty. It removes the sandbox nature of New Game Plus because you have to have optimized strong characters for 72B, and you have to run the same support characters to ensure you have enough turns and movement to beat it without tearing your hair out. There is no chance or hope of this chapter ever being changed either because Sanbando is completely finished with the game. Any remaining bugs or glitches, soft locks, are left to remain forever. I really like this game, but the clear downfalls of it make it difficult to try other avenues like randomizers or solo character runs. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I've got other ideas for Fantasy Maiden Wars, so I hope my next video doesn't take as long. I still don't know if I want to do another challenge run, a character analysis, or even another tutorial yet. Still, I read every comment and appreciate anyone clicking my video, even if it's just to see if their favorite character in this game is good. And with that, thanks for tuning in and have a wonderful day.